Hey everyone, I'm back after a long time away from YouTube, and I want to talk about what the big theme of my travels have been over the last 6 years. There are currently 51 countries with my name on them, and the thing is, about maybe 40 of these are countries I feel I genuinely know. I lived in them for several months or even years, I tried to learn the local language, and I made genuine friends. But for about 10 of them, I caught myself doing something I don't like to see others do, of just visiting the country for the sake of the tick. It's like adding them up like Pokemon, visiting small, easy countries because they got me to a bigger number, or visiting a single place in a huge country and then being able to scratch off the entire landmass of that country on one of those scratch maps. And I know people who have visited over 100 and even a couple of people who visited every single country. But for my own 23-year and continuing trip, I don't want the number of countries to be a metric that I think about. I prefer much deeper travels. So instead, I'm chasing every state, every province, region, sometimes every county or even major island, but basically every little dot on a map that most people fly straight over. And you know, if you count them, there's roughly 3,000 of them in the world. So the point isn't actually to tick off every single one. I'd need to live to be like 200 years old for that. The point is the journey and the people I meet on the way. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Benny, that's crazy. 3,000? You've lost it. You could barely do the countries, never mind every state inside of the country. And you're right, I will never finish. But here's what 23 years of doing this has taught me. The end goal of some number was never the point. Counting countries was never actually making my travel better. If anything, it made it worse because a scoreboard kind of rewards speed. And speed ruins everything that makes travel worth doing. Let me show you what I mean, because I've been both kinds of traveler. When you're counting countries, you optimize for that tick. You can fly into the capital, see one or two of the most famous things, get the stamp and leave. And I've met people who'll proudly tell you they've been to 100 countries, and when you actually talk to them, they've seen 100 airports, had maybe 100 hotel breakfasts, and taken the most typical Instagram shot in front of the most typical spot of the country. And I'm not necessarily judging them because I've done that kind of thing too for a handful of my country visits. But countries are wildly different sizes, and somehow they still count the same. Like ticking off Monaco scores exactly the same as what ticking off Brazil would. And in one of them, you can easily walk from one side to the other in an afternoon, while the other is the 5th largest country on Earth, bigger than the continental United States, and it holds entire worlds that have nothing to do with each other. So the scoreboard lies to you. It tells you you've seen the world when all you've really seen is a thin top layer of it. The bit that's easiest to reach and looks the best on a postcard, essentially. Instead, as an example, I've had a project spanning 2 decades of visiting every corner of Brazil, piece by piece. Not necessarily the tick you get from just going to Rio, but all of it. Every state. As much exploration as I could within each state. And if you've never looked at Brazil on a map properly, that's an absurd thing to attempt because it's like such a huge country. A huge chunk of it is mostly the Amazon rainforest, and the northernmost point of Brazil is actually closer to Canada than to the southernmost point. And the east of Brazil is way closer to Africa than it is to the west of Brazil. It's that big. And most of the states aren't so well connected between one another if you want to fly between them. So I went mainly overland, tens of thousands of kilometers by bus and boats from the very start of the Amazon River, which is actually in Peru, entering Brazil, going all the way to where it meets the Atlantic Ocean. I got to states most Brazilians have never set foot in. Roraima, right up on the Venezuela and Guyana border, Acre, which most Brazilians joke doesn't even exist or is full of dinosaurs, and I've made it to the equator at Amapá. And every single one of them was extraordinary, not because they're famous, precisely because for a lot of them, no other foreigner typically tends to go, so nothing's been sanded down for tourists. And often, you are the first foreigner not from a country next door that they've ever met in their lives. You're just in a real place with real people who are genuinely delighted that some Irish fella has turned up speaking Portuguese. If I'd been counting countries, Brazil would have been one tick, just one. Same as Luxembourg or Vatican City or Macau. I'd have flown into Rio, had a lovely week and flown home convinced I'd done a country that I haven't even begun to understand. Instead, I'm proud to say I've been able to visit every single one of Brazil's 26 states, meeting people in every one and having a truly unique experience every time. Obviously, I'm aware that I'm very lucky I get to do this. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of money saved up because of multiple problems I went through in my life that I talked about a few years ago. But I work online and I earn in a strong currency where an average salary gets you very far in a lot of other countries. And since I'm nomadic and travel with everything I own in the world, I'm not paying rent or a mortgage in a far off country. And fortunately, I did the vast majority of an expensive country like the United States before inflation started getting out of hand, back when it was still relatively affordable. And because of that, I've also visited all 48 contiguous states of the US. South Korea is a relatively small country, but I've visited every single province of it regardless. And last year, I spent most of the year visiting all the major islands of the western half of Indonesia, where it was incredibly affordable as a nomad working online. But I really did need to speak Indonesian to make it worthwhile. And this isn't some finished achievement I'm telling you about from a rocking chair. It's happening right now, even as I speak. I'm currently working my way through Mexico, state by state. Next week, I'll reach my 20th state out of 31. And because I'm going slowly, one state at a time, I'm not doing the entirety of any of the big countries in one go. I'll actually be coming back to Mexico for the final 10 or so states sometime later. And I'm still getting valuable experiences every time, especially thanks to making sure I speak the local language. I've been really enjoying this experience of visiting every state over these recent years, because I don't know how long I'll be able to travel for, so I want to have a more unique experience while I can. And despite the vast number of people traveling now compared to when I started in 2003, I'm still actually able to have unique experiences surrounded by mainly locals by traveling this way. I can highly recommend it. So like I said, I'm back again after a really long break, and there are a few things I want to talk about first as I get back into recording videos again. Like for instance, when I talk about deep, long-term projects like this, a lot of people ask me, how do I actually do this? How do you travel with everything you could possibly need in the world? And how do you arrive in a brand new city where you don't know anybody and you start to make friends and find social events pretty quickly, even if you're not super outgoing? So over the next few videos, I'm going to show you exactly that, the real logistics. How everything I own fits in one suitcase and how I find the events and the people that turn a strange city into somewhere I feel like I can belong. The unglamorous, practical, genuinely useful stuff underneath the whole every state in the world idea. I'll also return to some of the things I talked about a few years ago when I was sharing the darkest point of my life in terms of how I escaped from such a dark place and the importance of mental health. If that sounds like your kind of crazy videos, subscribe, because that's what's coming. And make sure to leave a comment to tell me what you'd be most interested in seeing. And I'm going to be posting very regularly on social media about my travels, and you can find links to those in the description too. And if you originally followed me for my language learning advice, don't worry, because I've just uploaded a dedicated video to my language learning YouTube channel, and I still help people in a supportive coach community who want to learn a language themselves intensively, so I'd be happy to talk with you one-on-one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. So as always, happy travels and happy language learning.